The house was quiet, made worse by the fact that I was going to be spending the night alone. You could just go back to Sal, be like, Mommy, I had a nightmare. My bedroom was cold, and I was in my room for only a few minutes before I made a dash to the bathroom to cough up what was left in my stomach. Oop. There goes the egg salad. That's a setup and payoff right there. We had to put food in his stomach so that he could have a bad time. Things were bad. And I collapsed onto my bed with a groan. What? What do I do? Grabbing my phone, I dialed it again, listening to my dad's voice. Not just once, but on repeat, in silence, until what battery life my phone had ran out. Not long after that, I passed out, feeling unsure of what was to happen next, to thoughts of what I was meant to do.
Oh, day 12.
Yeah, we're burning through the days now. We're blazing. There was a familiar.
It's actually really quick, really quick time between days right there.
Oh yeah, because we literally we were freaking out at breakfast, and then we had the swim lessons, and then he would literally like stopped for the day and slept until the Osmond meeting. So we actually skipped most of the day.
I'm just trying to remember the last, like, player pacing wise, if there were any other sessions where we got through like an easy multiple set of days in like a single session.
Maybe the probably not even at the beginning, honestly.
I feel like days
the beginning
like
had a lot of
7
setup
and
to
8
do.
or whatever took a long time.
There was a specific day that we had to replay like 4 times because it was the multiple deaths one. So there was a period of time where we really stalled for a while. But even then, days don't usually go very quickly. We outside of the stalling periods, I think we often beat like 1 day per session.
Yeah.
This one went quick like. And this isn't even a very long session. There was a familiar floating sensation that I was very quickly getting used to, and I didn't like it. Almost before I could hear it, and for sure before I could see anything, I knew where I'd end up. Sitting on my bed felt off, but maybe because I was fairly certain that this was just a dream. After all, with everything going on, there's no way that I had it backwards. I made my way downstairs, wondering why I was thinking of home so much. I missed it, sure. More so with everything else going on, too. Dad? No response. A blessing in disguise, and I felt relieved, if a little. I've never heard someone phrase sentences that way so often.
Yeah.
This, if that. But here it feels weird. I feel like the if almost feels like it should be like a contradiction, like it should be like a counterbalance descriptor.
Yeah.
Still,
I agree.
What relief was soon replaced with loneliness, knowing that the one person I wanted to be around, that I could turn to for advice, was long gone. Not only that, but I'd given myself the impression that I'd pushed everyone away in trying to cope with my problems, only to make more instead. Sal was doing his best to understand, but I wasn't helping things. I got the impression that out of everyone, he'd be the one to listen to and lean on for how to get through this. But maybe that was part of the issue. Maybe I didn't want help, as bad as that sounded. I looked out at the front yard, most of it a haze and a blur of color instead of what was actually there. The letterbox was the most distinct thing out there, having spent most days leaning on it, waiting for Dad to come home. Dad? I spoke to no one in particular, half expecting him to be around or just to show up, but things were quiet. Looking around the living room again, I took stock of everything that held some sort of fond memory. The anchor sitting against the wall that Dad bought, Mom's diploma hanging proudly on the wall, a couple of painted rocks sitting on the bookcase that I'd put there for decoration. These were things that we'd put there as a family, each with a story that made me smile, But now, thinking about with how Dad was gone and Mom working so much, it was just lonely. Mom? Much like before, there was no reply. She wasn't around either, but that was something that wasn't too new. When Dad died, she'd lost a lot of her edge, coming home mostly to sleep, only to disappear back to work. I can't remember the last time we ate a meal together, even living in the same house. But that's the void that Tyson filled, or maybe I just forced him into that role. Maybe he didn't mind. Or maybe he did. I never thought to ask. I found myself in the kitchen, just as empty as the rest of the house. It was a cruel reminder of what was to come after this vacation. Everyone leaving, shy of Dean or Tyson maybe, for who knows how long. Shy of Dean or Tyson? Aren't those the two characters that are explicitly leaving? Out of the entire roster?
You also wouldn't say shy of. Shy means near, like when you say shy of something, you mean like nearly without. So
yeah, he means
that implies that they're thinking about leaving.
Yeah, he means except Dean and Tyson, like everyone else is leaving.
Yes.
But we haven't established
exactly.
that most characters are leaving. Tyson's one of the only characters we've established is leaving.
Yes.
And Dean is like he's like, isn't Dean going on a mission to prove himself to the family or something?
Something like that.
So Dean and Tyson, I think, are the two characters that we know are leaving. I don't think we know that Sal or Orlando or... Well, we out of game think Roswell's dying, but I don't think we think that they're leaving. And in the bad ending, they move in together?
Yeah,
like Sal, Orlando, and Tyson
together.
Was it Sal, Orlando, and Roswell? Some of these people move in together, seemingly, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, this is a strange sentence, because as far as I can tell, it's exactly backwards. It's the people that... Not everyone is leaving, as far as we know, or it hasn't been set up, and the two people that they say aren't leaving are the two people we most know are leaving, I think, but I could be wrong. I'm not wrong about Tyson. Tyson's clearly leaving. Maybe I should leave too. Or ask if I could just follow, just so I wasn't left behind. I felt cold, deflated, and before I knew it, I was waking up. It was early. Early enough that I'd only been down for a couple of hours. My mind was racing with everything that had happened. My stomach lurched when I remembered what I had seen in the laboratory. And if I had anything left in my gut, I would have likely lost it there. I checked my phone, and it was still charging, and even that held little comfort to me. Sitting up in bed, I whined, hanging my head. I was tired, but not sleepy. Maybe I needed a warm glass of milk, or a walk or something. Walkies? The house was quiet. Hands in the pouch of my hoodie, I descended to the foyer. I guess we don't have an ending yet, because he hasn't told everyone yet, so they haven't all done the thing that people do once a body is found, which is they fucking leave. So, that's what all the endings are. So until we all leave, or Dave dies or something, I guess it just keeps going. The tiles were cool and smooth on my feet, making me flinch the moment I touched down. But something else caught my attention instead. The sound of someone upset. I keep forgetting that they don't wear shoes in this universe. I edged closer to the dining room, easing the door further open, that it already was to peer inside. Hello, Roswell? Shirtless Roswell okay. Roswell was pacing along the length of the table, arms folded and mumbling something to himself. He sounded more distressed than anything else, and didn't hear me as I approached. Roswell? Slowly, almost carefully, he straightened and looked at me with his eyes glistening wet in what little light was in the room.
Hey, Dave. Can't sleep?
I nodded, and he nodded along with me, averting his gaze and rubbing his arms. There's been a lot going on.
You can say that again.
Listen, Roswell, you know ghost stuff, right?
Yeah? Why?
I fiddled with my hands while they sat in the pouch of my hoodie, unsure of how best to ask. Is dying scary? Does it hurt?
How would Roswell know?
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't.
I also think it's like the murder method is what determines if it hurts.
Yeah.
You don't know any magic that would... I shut my eyes tight as I trembled, a feeble whine escaping my clenched jaw. He reached out and touched my arm, flashing me a weak smile.
So that's why you weren't at dinner. Orlando was sketchy on the details when he went to check on you.
I didn't really tell him anything. His voice was quiet and calm, and he eased back to pull out a chair.
Sit down. I'm gonna make you some tea.
I grimaced, only to have Roswell lean in a little closer.
Fine, coffee, but only if there's decaf.
All right. Roswell flashed me one last smile before disappearing into the kitchen as I sat down. Once again, it was quiet, and I found myself sitting there with my head empty. Before I knew it, Roswell was coming back from the kitchen and setting something down in front of me. Roswell, but this is...
No decaf, but I thought this might help.
I looked down at the sugary drink, chocolatey and creamy. I cupped the mug and used it to warm my hands.
But what's up?
I shook my head, staring at the drink in front of me as Roswell pulled up a chair beside me. I got upset at Sal today.
That doesn't seem so bad.
It doesn't, but I don't know. He wants to help, but what can I say to him? What can I do?
Apologize?
But more than that.
Sal's, fairly reasonable. Lot smarter than I give him credit for, too. But maybe that's just because he's older than the rest of us.
I'm just now catching up with how strange it was that in the middle of a conversation about how Dave's unraveling and upset and going through a crisis, Sal was like, "Hey, so don't lead Dean on, okay? You tart." Like, what? That was a very strange conversation to happen yesterday, right? Like, this. We got fixated on the fact that, like, we got fixated on the fact that we don't have that dynamic isn't established, like that between Dave and Dean. But that was a really weird conversation for Sal to introduce in the first place, given that supposedly the whole tone for the last 24 hours has been all about everyone being worried about Dave, about Dave and how much of a mess he is right now. And it's like, how dare you give my best friend the wrong idea romantically somehow, was a very strange topic.
Yeah. If you wanted to talk things out with him, he'd listen.
I nodded slowly, grip tightening around my mug. Roswell pulled out his phone, placing it on the table.
I'm not sure if this would help, but I can try.
But can I try?
Oh, but can I try?
Sure.
It's hard to read, Keith. Reading is hard.
Reading is hard. I've been doing it all along. I used to edit out all of my mistakes, but it took too long. It took way too long. Like, if you watch my original Outlast playthrough, I believe that every time I read a note, it's like edited to have no mistakes in it. But there was one where I left in the bloopers after the credits or whatever, or after the ending. It's just this me reading one note and fucking up a line over and over again for like minutes straight because I'm just falling apart. All the weird fucked up handwriting and trying to get a handle on how people are phrasing things. I spent the last decade practicing at this point, and I'm still only this good. He turned on his phone and flicked through some photos before settling on one and leaving the phone in clear view of the table. Haas, Orlando, Roswell and I are all dressed up in costumes for a thing Haas put together. We were all smiling, and I remembered the day well. I remembered working hard on my costume for ages. We all looked good. It was a day that I remember being happy.
When I look at this picture, I think of my friends. I think of people that made my life happy, even if we might not get to see each other every day.
He scratched his head and sighed out, staying quiet as he leaned back in his chair.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that these people in this photo, these are only some of the people that have your best interest at heart. We're here for you if you want it. These are only some of the people that have your best interest at heart. Why is only in there? I mean, I get he's trying to say maybe other people care about us.
Yeah, like there's even more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the timeline down again. Didn't Roswell just come back when we went on this trip? Like he was gone for years, and that's why he's not familiar with the Tyson dynamic?
Yeah. I think so.
And then isn't Haas the newest addition to the group?
Yeah, I think so
how
as
do
well.
Roswell and Haas have history in a photo? Did this just happen? Or I always look at this photo to think of my friends. We took it 20 days ago.
Yeah.
Because I thought Haas was a child actor, and he's de facto would have had to move here relatively recently to have had a career and then come here while still being young enough to be in school. And Roswell was gone for some span of time. I'm just trying to hash out the timeline there because it doesn't sound right to me. Thanks. My tone was hollow, and I didn't even think to hide it. Instead, I just drank from the cup of cocoa that Roswell had given me. But when I did, things felt a little better. The way the sweetness played on my tongue lifted my spirits, if only a little.
There's no easy solution, Dave, but please don't forget you've got us, right?
Okay. I sat the empty mug in front of me and got up, suddenly exhausted.
Sleep well, Dave.
Yeah.
I put Quaaludes in your hot chocolate.
When I snuck a look back at Roswell, he flashed me a smile, if fleeting. He says he does that phrasing so much. As he was taking my mug into the kitchen. Cleaning up after myself wasn't a priority, but I was tired enough that I just wanted to try and sleep. This conversation made Dave feel very self-involved and uncaring of his friends. I'm going to review the introduction real quick, because isn't, like... Something caught my attention instead. The sound of someone upset. And then he just doesn't ask. Like, he just never interrogates Roswell being up, shirtless, in the dining room, being audibly upset from outside. He just doesn't. Dave!
Yeah. No questions, no notes.
Once again, are these people friends? When I snuck a look back at Roswell, he flashed me a smile. Oh, this is the one. Let whatever happens, happen. That'd be fine, right? I had backup if it got too bad, so I could just stop, right? Those were the thoughts I fell asleep to, as quickly as it happened when I got back to bed. The others were inside, still assembling for breakfast. I got some sleep, but it didn't seem to do any good. I leaned against the railing on the back deck, just looking out into the world and wondering just where things left me. Would it have just been better if I stayed at home? A familiar scent crossed my nose. I turned my head as the back door opened. "Morning, Ty." He grunted as he came to stand next to me, looking out at the trees. "Had trouble sleeping last night?" "Yeah, how'd you know?" It's every night." "You won't believe what pattern recognition can do for you as an adult." He shrugged, shooting me a quick look. "I'm looking out for you. You weren't the only one not able to sleep last night. You want to talk about it? Did you?" The sudden question back took me by surprise. "No, I mean, you stayed up just because I couldn't sleep?" "What? Is that the implication you got from that?" "What?" "You didn't even see each other." "Nah, it was something else. Heard you talking to Roswell, though." At this point, I assume no one ever sleeps well. Ever.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, he helped remind me of something. It's just been rough lately. "No shit, but you're not here alone. You're not alone there. Been going through stuff myself. But you get through it. With help. If you want it. Don't know if I want to dump that on anyone else just yet, though. But if you need someone, I'm here for you." I nodded slowly, brow furrowed as I looked at the trees. I thought about telling Ty what I'd seen, given the sick feeling was starting to well up in my stomach again. Maybe he'd know what to do. He would not. Or what to say that'd make me feel better after what I'd seen. Now, come on. Huh? Where are we going? Breakfast. At least I am. You due to get something in you as well before you start freaking out more. I watched as he headed inside, leaving the door open for me, but making no effort to wait. Taking one last look around, I sighed. Today would be better. Or at least I hoped so. When I walked into the dining room, I felt everyone look up. Not quite staring, but it felt as if they were. So much attention on me, I shuffled along the length of the table and into the kitchen, leaving them behind. Rushing over to the kitchen sink, I grabbed a glass and grabbed some water, gulping it down while clutching my chest. It helped, a little, but it wasn't nearly as good as the hot brew that I had expected to come in here for. Bracing myself against the sink, I tried to regulate my breathing. In and out, over and over, till my heart stopped racing. I need coffee. Edging over to the machine, I got it going despite my hands shaking and trembling. The moment I started to smell brewing coffee, I started to calm down. Is it just me, or did he seem to spike out of nowhere? Is it that people were looking at him? Is that his reaction?
Yeah.
So that I don't know. I guess somewhat unhelpfully that hangout CG that they have a variation of for every character is very serene. So transitioning from that to him having like a panic attack is a strange moment, because I'm like, I thought it's that CG always implies calmness, even though people are probably contemplating, like he's almost always contemplating how bad things are, but it's a very pensive, relaxed scene, so it's hard to then be like, he's literally shaking, which also coffee doesn't normally help with the shaking, but I guess he just likes it that much. The scent held fond memories, even if once a long time ago I hated the taste. Far too bitter, and something I had to load up with sugar just to stomach. Mom flipped between letting me do my own thing, calling me her little rebel, and scolding me for not taking care of myself. Maybe something that comes with being a doctor. What? How does that this just doesn't connect to what we're talking about. Dad was a little more lax, but insisted I not touch the stuff until I get old enough. Then occasionally we'd sit at home and have coffee, or go to a cafe and get something more special. Are you saying, oh, being a little rebel for drinking coffee, I guess? Okay. Trying to gauge what we're talking about. It burned as it went down, half scalding my tongue, but I didn't care. It made me feel better now, and cleared my head just enough that I could think about what I needed to do next. I need fresh air. You were just outside. You were hanging out outside. My mind thought back to the lab, the suffocating smell that was in there, and for another moment I felt ill. Yeah, I'm just thrown off because we had a scene of him being relaxed by Roswell, followed by a scene of him relaxing with Tyson, so I'm just thrown. It sounds, the narration sounds like he literally just found the body. Remembering how well my last outing went by the time I got back, I figured I'd have to at least tell the others that I was heading out. Maybe by the time I come back, I would have an idea on how best to approach the hidden room in the library, especially given Haas and I had said that we'd tell the others before too long. Everyone? After I'd readied myself, I had headed into the kitchen to let the others know what was going on. The only problem was that not everyone was still here. Oh. Dean and Haas looked at one another before turning back to me.
Dave, what's going on?
I, wanted to tell everyone that I was going out for a walk. Again? Yeah, I figure I need to get out of the house and just stay away from it for a bit. Get some fresh air. Dean scratched his chin. He stayed quiet, but slowly nodded, seemingly understanding.
Well, stay safe, I suppose. I'm just thankful that you're at least telling someone this time.
Again, he says. You went for a walk 2 days ago. Aren't you walked out now? You run out of walks for the week. I looked between the two of them, suddenly unsure if I should be leaving. Should I go tell the others? Nah, it's alright. I'll let them know. Oh. Okay. Then I guess I'll be going now? Sandwich? Sandwich. Dean stepped forward and put a hand on my shoulder, flashing me a quick smile. Stay safe. Then, after lingering a few moments, he turned around and left. I looked to Haas, who almost seemed just as eager to go.
See you when you get back.
Just like that, Haas left after Dean. Maybe they're off to do something together, but who knows. Everyone else is already doing things, and whatever they were, it didn't include me. I wandered out of the front door and looked out at the grounds that sprawled out before the house. A long stretch of grass with the driveway disappearing down a ways through the trees. So, wait, he was with Tyson.
Yep.
Then he and Tyson went here to get breakfast. Then he pushed past the room full of everyone in it, because he didn't like the eyes on him, and drank a cup of coffee while having some kind of panic attack. And then he comes back and everyone's gone, including Tyson, who came here with him to eat a whole meal and not just drink a cup of coffee. Just this is why the continuity gets confusing. I'm like, hang on. Well, I'm like, why is he so? Why did his mood get escalated so hard? And where did Tyson go when he was the person here to start eating? I'd been down that way before. Not all the way, but maybe that was somewhere I could go. I'd slept most of the way on the bus after all. Maybe it was time I checked out what was at the end of the driveway for real. A road, I hope. Unless there's a wacky surprise. The main selling point was that if I was just looking to avoid everyone for a bit, it'd be the least likely place for people to go. As I wandered down the driveway, I had my hands in my pockets and let my mind wander. It was nice out here. Peaceful. So all that was left was to find a way to resolve my feelings. How well did I really know Sal? What started as a happenstance meeting at work one day led to a fairly solid friendship. Maybe not as strong as the others, but it made me feel safe and calm. He reminded me of Roswell in a way, and that his insights were typically good advice. Is that a thing that's true about Roswell? I just wish I was better at taking it. Even over the past few days, he'd been going out of his way to help me feel better, but what have I done in return? I even stormed off on him yesterday, stormed off like a child. Stopping in my tracks, I thought about it. Was Sal looking out for me the same way he did Orlando? Was he trying to hint at something when he said that he had a crush on someone recently? But I liked Dean, right? Do you? Do you?
Unclear.
Like, Dave having a crush on Tyson isn't subtext, is it? It's text, isn't it? Like, these are two... I don't know. Maybe it's never been explicit. It's just obvious. Like, incredibly obvious that he has a thing for Tyson. So him struggling with the idea of Dean specifically and not, like, a back... Like, the fact that he's not thinking about the fact... Like, it's split between two characters, and it's weird that he's not thinking of it in those terms. The more I thought about it, the less certain that I was. Me too, buddy. Whoa. Okay, no. Dave, you're not walking on this road. Fuck you. No, absolutely not.
What's
fuck?
off the edge of this cliff? It would be bad if someone conveniently pushed me over.
Two issues. One, that is a very flat-looking forest in all the other shots, so we are not in this kind of mountainy terrain. But two, no, this is not a road you walk. Both sides are not safe. You're either hugging the fucking rock wall or the cliff that doesn't have a shoulder. So if any, like, admittedly, like, okay, maybe this is the main road, not the driveway, so maybe he'll stop and turn around. It's funny because he walked for apparently hours and never reached the end of the driveway last time, but now he reached it in like 3 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
So that throws me off. I was worried that this was just him continuing to walk, but like, yeah, you absolutely have to, you can't walk here. I hate roads like this for obvious reasons, but like, yeah, one side is a cliff, the other side is a blind turn that's blocked by a cliff, the cliff that's above you. And so like you have to awkwardly kind of cut that, and like there's nowhere for a person to be safely at every one of these turns, because you're gonna get a vehicle moving too fast is about to blindside you. Soon enough, I hit the main road, which is a weird thing to say about a driveway that previously took ages to walk. The mountain's opening up in front of me. I had to shield my eyes from the light, having been walking in shade for most of the trek down. Wow. We were much higher up than I'd realized, with the mountains and forests rolling out as far as I could see. As I stood there, looking down at the drop-off the other side of the road, I wondered how often people came this way. When I looked down the road, I wondered just how far away the next house was. With how it wound around the corner, it was hard to tell just how long the road was. Which, given I had all the time in the world, I wandered down it, realizing that this road only led to the mansion and nothing else. It only leads to the mansion? Still don't walk down it. You could just... This is a very dangerous road. Sure enough, the road continued to wind around the mountain, across a bridge and out of sight, with no other houses in view. If I wanted to go home, the road back was long. I could just continue walking down this road and never look back, and I'd be done with everything involved. Done with everything involving everyone dying. You've tried that. People die when you do that. So that's still being involved in their deaths. But also, once again, you have a cell phone. You can get a ride. Walking is not I guess
we have established that Uber is a thing in this universe.
I guess it's a metaphor, but damn, man, like, you do not need to walk home. You'll probably die, honestly. But that's just not how I worked. The thought that one of us was marked for death, lingering deep in the back of my mind, despite me knowing for sure who it was. Despite me, not knowing for sure who it was. Okay, I was like, am I insane? Just give up, Dave. Let whatever happens, happen. Let them die. This is getting repetitive. As I stood in the middle of the road, my eyes wandered over the cliff to my right, rising high before plateauing somewhere higher up, where yet more trees sat. Then, over the side of the road, where a river occasionally peered out from behind the trees a long way down. Everything behind me, back at the mansion, was its own little world, one I wanted to escape. Edging closer to the edge of the road, I wondered for a second what would happen if I were just to fall off then and there. I wondered what it'd be like to die, and if I'd get to see Dad again. I wondered what Mom would think, or what she'd do, or if she'd even notice. Okay, so he has very unkind thoughts about his mom.
Yeah.
All it would take would be to just one step, and then another, towards the edge of the road, and peering over the edge. Staring down at the trees below made me feel lightheaded, and I quickly stepped away. I can't. Falling back on my rear, I buried my face in my hands, ashamed and embarrassed. Yet I still couldn't cry. Even facing my own death wasn't enough to set me off. Instead, I just wailed and whined into the open air. I got up and just yelled, angry and confused and upset. I didn't care. Hours passed before I started to head back up the driveway. My throat sore. Each step I took back towards the house made me think if the others had been listening. If they'd even heard at all. And if they did, if they'd cared. They definitely could not hear you. We've established that this is a very, 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 very long driveway. The sound of a twig snapping caused me to stop. Quickly looking around, I tried to place where the sound came from. Who's there? There was nothing but silence as my reply. Typo. But I stood there and waited. My eyes darted around the place, expecting to see something. Anything, and I was about to start walking when I heard another snap somewhere nearby. Hello? I spun around, started to back up. If this were one of my friends, they'd have answered. The next thing I did was run, as fast as my legs would carry me back to the house. I don't know how long I'd been running for, but I started to slow down further up the driveway. Listening in, I tried to figure out if I was being followed, or if whatever had been in the woods was still nearby. What was that? I leaned up against a tree to catch my breath, occasionally looking over my shoulder. Nothing as far as I could tell. Continuing on, I got back to the manor. The moment I was in sight, I picked up pace right up until my hands was on the doorknob. I hesitated, looking over my shoulder at the trees to see if I could spot what, if anything, had been following me. Straining my eyes to see if I could spot anything, I shook my head when nothing moved beyond the gentle sway of the leaves in the wind. It was unsettling, and I found myself cradling my arms, wanting to be around someone else just for a little bit. At least someone that I knew. Hello? My voice echoed in the foyer, fading into an uncomfortable silence. Hello? Anyone? Anyone here? Please. I'd done a lap of the house, peering into the bedrooms, plus any other room that I'd come across just in case something had happened or gone wrong. Is this the massacre?
Oh, maybe.
But sure enough, everything looked untouched from what it was supposed to look like. Which was a good thing. Maybe. Part of me was fearing the worst, and that I'd come back to find one of my friends dead.
This is a lot of content. This is a kind of remarkable amount of content to happen
in the dead end. Yeah, that we could have skipped potentially.
Like multiple choices as well, branching pieces. And granted, I know probably some of that is just for the different routes and stuff and character interactions, which ultimately don't really mean too much, but like it's intimidating when you get to something like this and it's like, holy crap, we've been reading for 3.5 hours since the product change, the route change. It's kind of interesting. It's both full. Some of it has more important information or more important stuff that's worth including. Some of it's incredibly repetitive, in that this is our second day of walking down the driveway and contemplating burdening this massive task, and it was like 4 separate conversations about about people saying you can talk to them if you need help, kind of over and over again, just dragging for like a very long time. Like some of this could be trimmed a bit. Yeah.
To some extent, this if this is a dead end, it's kind of like bloated in a way. I imagine it'll be interesting to see whether or not the skip feature works correctly if the same if the same Orlando swimming scene happens in the other route. Between routes, Osmond had already been killed, and while the thought didn't immediately make me want to hurl, there were no signs pointing to who did it or why. I looked across the door leading to the vault, wondering if there was something that I could have put in, something that would have saved Osmond's life. With it being dark and cold, I didn't want to stay as much as the allure of the vault made me reconsider. It was warmer outside, if barely. I couldn't hear anyone at the pool, and a quick wander over to the greenhouse proved that no one was there either. They were just gone. Wherever they disappeared to, I didn't know. What I did know was that I was scared, lonely, and just wanted to curl up into a ball in bed. When I got to my room, I stripped down and got under the covers, willing myself to sleep. The longer I slept, the longer I didn't have to consciously think about everything going wrong. Text them. You have a phone. Or at least that's what I told myself. If I could stay asleep forever, maybe that'd just be better than being here in the mansion.
Oh, Dave.
I could hear him, clear as anything. When I opened my eyes, there he was.
There he is.
Dad. I knew it was a dream. I knew that he wasn't for real or even there, but it was so clear and so real. I wanted to believe that if I reached out, I'd be able to feel him. Someone closed the fucking door.
Hey, sport. What's got you down?
Huh? Nothing. Nothing's got me down. It's just the rapture, which is a good thing, right?
Really? Don't buy that for a second, champ. Your nose is doing the scrunchy thing mine does.
He made a show of touching his own nose before reaching out to mine. Where he would have touched, instead I flinched away.
So come on, Dave, what's wrong?
Dad, I miss you. I want you here. I don't want to be alone, and everyone's dying, and I'm scared. I'm really scared that I'm not normal. Why haven't I cried, Dad? Why?
Hey, sport. Hey, now.
I wanted to cry again. I really did, but instead my face just sort of scrunched up painfully instead.
You're allowed to cry, you know that, right?
I want to.
But you can't. Why?
I don't know. I could feel myself tugging at the fur on my arms. Maybe something I was doing even while asleep. It was hard to say. The faintest sound of a siren echoed somewhere in the distance, muffled as if I were hearing it from behind my many walls with headphones on. Flashes of red and blue started to strain what I was seeing, alternating between the two until it was all I could see. I cowered whenever I thought of that night. More so than the funeral, or even everything else that happened after. That was the night that changed everything for me. When I awoke, it was late, having slept most of the day away. Even with the amount of sleep that I just finished, I was still tired. Not physically from my walk, but something else. Is it the next day? No, it's late, right? Huh. Well, I guess next time we'll find out where everyone is. Oh, there's someone.
Yeah.
Someone's here at least.
Yeah.